of sharing. Durian
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You are at the Durian Heat, where we share issues and talk about all those matters going around in Southeast Asia. And today, this morning, we have invited a very special guest to talk about what is all the PR is all about, and her name is Alice George. She's the founder and also principal consultant of AG Communication. And with me, I have Karina, all the way from the Philippines.
Hello, mabuhay. Hi.
Yes, hi. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Right. So before we continue and talk about our serious business later on, how about just a brief introduction of yourself, Alice?
Okay. Well, my name is Alice George, which is why I titled the company recently and rebranded it to AG Global Communications, because at the end of the day, it's not about yourself, but about the company and the team when we work together to build a brand and to build the profile of a brand. So I've been in this, I've been in the work experience for more than 35 years.
Wow.
But I've seen the growth of this industry by leaps and bounds. I'm excited about the future of communications, you know, whether it's PR or advertising or just marketing communications, incorporating social media as well. But I think the future is all about an integrated campaign of communications. My background is I come from Sarawak, so I'm from the land of the Hornbill, and I've studied there when everything was in the English medium, before we moved into Bahasa much later. And I started with the British Council in Kuching, and then I was sort of headhunted into Kuala Lumpur to help with a leading property company with communications. So I started off as a writer for a very big group, and then I sort of moved on. But I worked very, very hard in the initial part of my career.
I could feel that, Alice, really.
So, you know, my day would be like, 6 speeches to write for 20 companies within the group and deadlines like back to back. But I think I took it on quite well because I just saw it as a way to fast forward my career.
Correct.
And, practice makes perfect. So the more you practice writing and reading, these are the two skills that you need as a communications person, then, the faster that you will move forward in your career, because your brain is like a sponge. It absorbs things, and it's like a muscle too. There are times you get headaches, but you recover, and then you are able to stretch your mind a lot more. And you find that at the end of 30 years, you're able to maybe write a speech in about 20 minutes. So you have to, so in consultancy, it's also speed, a sense of urgency, but accuracy and clarity of thought. So all that takes time, and it takes, I had very good mentors. So I attribute, my success today because of these people. And Wow,
so that's very motivating stories of the whole, just a brief introduction of yourself, Alice. So you have a very deep experience when it comes to your career, speaker, trainer, writer, editor, and you're also founder and also a principal consultant of your own company. But before that, when it comes to PR, public relations, the term itself, it's not so familiar, especially with younger generations. So would you like to elaborate, perhaps to just define simply what PR is all about?
Okay. Well, PR is not press release. PR is actually public relations, and it means that if you're a company, you're looking at the different stakeholders that are important to your company. So it could be anyone from the board of directors to, I think, the most important part is actually the employees of the company and the external target audiences being the public at large. So if you're a property company, you're looking at potential buyers. So you start campaigns looking at mass markets because everybody wants to buy a house, right? And then, of course, when you go up to the $1 million houses, then it's specific niche market. So I think you really have to get a very good brief on what public relation needs or communication needs are of a brand before you can draft out a suitable campaign that is fitting for the company. Yeah, that is strategic. Yeah.
So that means you really do analyze about the company and
Yes.
then to know what's inside and out, basically.
Exactly. And I think a lot of companies, they are so busy in operations, like the day-to-day running and management of a company, they do not have time to actually see what people are thinking about their brand. So sometimes when we are on board, we give companies that outside-in orientation, so they're aware of what is the public perception about
Right.
us. And sometimes you think, like what you said, you can sweep things and think that people forget it, but these little issues, which may be small and negative in your eyes, can spiral out of control and become a major issue and then become crisis communications.
Right.
And I think for crisis communications or any kind of PR campaign, you need to be prepared. So if your campaign is in January 2016,
Right.
you've had to prepare early this year.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
so that your company management and directors can sign off on the budgets which they see is in line with their business objectives. So a PR campaign is not just pretty pictures and a nice caption, but it has to carry the right messages so that it impacts the bottom line and the revenue of a company as well. Yeah.
By hearing that, it's actually more than what I have been thinking when it comes to public relations. What I've learned in my uni period, it's about overcoming crisis and then the communication you kept on mentioning. But it actually beyond what we are thinking.
Yes.
And it embraces a lot of parts, in fact. And how about you, Karina, when it comes to PR? What comes in your mind?
Well, like honestly, like when you ask me about PR, like the person is very much, very profound on things or the company or anything, and then very quick when it comes to absorbing information. Just like what she said, like you're like a sponge,
Yeah.
absorbing information and all. And I look on public relations more as a person, like public relations and the person doing
Right.
it, like more of the brand.
So
Like,
you relate those two
yes,
each other.
yeah.
I
So
see.
like also the attributes of a PR person. That's what I'm looking always out there and always keen to know more.
Yeah.
So it's also refreshing for me to be in the show and
Yeah.
learn more from the expert beside me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually, it's if you're a good PR, aspiring consultant, you need to have your antennas up all the time.
Right, for sure. I
So you
believe
have
that.
to
Yeah.
be well read. So I'm constantly not just on my smartphone, but I'm watching the news. I'm getting things that are breaking in
So
early
you
morning.
constantly keep yourself updated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when you meet with CEOs of companies, you have to be on top of what's happening every day,
Oh, yeah,
so
that's very
that
true.
you can relate to what they're talking about for their businesses and tie it back to a good campaign that is appropriate for their company. Yeah.
Well, so I think that's an endless study.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a
once
lot
you-
of research and reading.
Right.
But some people, like I said, the brains are like a sponge and you just absorb everything so fast because you have a passion. So if you ask me what is my key driver in my personality, is a passion for my work because I really want to help companies and I think it's great pride and joy when you see that the campaign works and the client is happy and you see all the ratings go up, the numbers are up. Of course it doesn't happen immediately, but a good campaign will take about 1 to 6 years to see full results,
Wow.
Yeah,
So you also
long-
need the patience.
Long
You need
process
patience, and I think you need to be really consistent,
Oh, yeah.
and you need to drive your messages. Every year, it need not be the same message, depending on what the company's business objectives are.
Right.
So, for example, things are very quiet now because everybody's holding back their budgets, which I think it's a wrong
The current
strategy.
situation, yeah.
Yes, because things are quiet, all the more reason why you can shine during this time and put a little bit forward and invest in an integrated campaign that doesn't require a lot of funds, but something to keep the name of your brand in the brand recall and in the minds of people. Because people are thinking of buying something every day, whether it's a car or a home. So how do you stay on top of their minds is to be visible. How do you stay visible is to communicate communicate clearly and strategically.
Very true.
In the different media that's out there.
You mentioned shortly about passion, and that drives you to continue your career. But by hearing your speeches so far, I could also feel that you have this thirst for getting more information and wanting to know more about what's going on around the world. And that's also one element that drives you to be in this industry for so long.
I think I have to thank my mom, because when I was small, I was always given like loads of books she would buy and keep them stashed away. But she wouldn't give it to me if there are exams going on, but she'll give it to me as an incentive during the holidays. And so television was not that great. So I think my imagination and my thirst for knowledge came from reading.
Nice.
And I think reading is still a foundation for everyone. And I would like to appeal to all the young people out there that, reading is still crucial.
Very.
Apart from your tablets and your devices. To me, that hurts more actually. Physically your eyes tire out. But I think reading actually generates a good exercise for your mind. Otherwise your mind becomes lazy.
That's very true.
And that's how depression starts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you have nothing to do.
For sure. So let's take a short break. We're going to continue our conversation with Alice and also Karina in the house.
Thank you, Grace.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN. You're with Grace and
Karina.
And also we've been speaking with Alice George.
Hello.
Hi. So she's been giving us a lot of insightful stories and also based on her experience in the PR. And here we are back on air, and she'll be sharing her more stories that she's been working as. My God, she has a lot of jobs that she did from speaker, trainer, writer, editor, and now she's the founder and also principal consultant of Asia Communications. So Alice, let's start with perhaps one case study that you can tell us about.
Okay, this is a television channel brand.
All right.
And what had happened was we were approached to do a campaign for this television.
I see.
Okay. And I think we did a very good job. We worked very hard together with the management of the television brand. And over 8 years, we generated a lot of publicity for the brand, after which they sold off the company for very high value. And now it's parked under a public listed international company in New York.
Right.
And it's still being aired. But what I'm saying is it took 8 to 10 years to build the brand equity to make people all around the world, whether it's a PR agency doing some publicity in Malaysia, but they had an agency in every country. So regionally they became well known. So when you put your brand out there, people are watching, looking, and even maybe wanting to buy because it's such a wonderful brand that has been portrayed, right? So it's all about managing that perception, the good perceptions of that excellent brand, which eventually after X number of years, somebody went forward and offered a fund, and they bought over for a very good amount of money. And then using that money, they probably will start another brand. So there are a lot of these serial entrepreneurs out there that are constantly building brands, and then after that selling them off to a good partner, and then starting all over again from ground zero with another brand. But what I'm trying to say, it was public relations and communications and marketing and social media, an integrated campaign that helped build that brand across all platforms throughout the world, that got the attention of investors, So you can't be a good brand and be hidden under the carpet, or you have to be out there telling everyone what you stand for. Yeah.
That's very important. So under the umbrella of PR, you've mentioned several elements from marketing, advertisement, promotion work, and you also mentioned about social media. So can we talk more about social media, which I'm sure our young listeners can relate themselves to? So social media has brought a very huge impact in our lives, and it has become part of our lives already. Like most of us, we are on the phone all the time, reading articles or getting information. The first thing we wake up in the morning, we'll open Facebook or Twitter just to get information, because there are lots of diverse information that we can receive from. But from your point of view, what is your perception when it comes to social media as a platform for companies to promote themselves, utilize this platform?
I think in whatever communications such as social media, you have to be quite strategic. So not every brand is suitable to go all alone on social media and think that you can make a buck out of it and increase your revenue. It doesn't work. So I still go back, from what I've observed, to having a 360-degree communications campaign that will work for the brand. Do you know what I mean? So people, supposing you run a very expensive restaurant, for example, social media in Malaysia is still frequented by young people. So they are not the target audience that you're looking for. So who are your audiences and what are they reading and what are they looking at and how can you capture their attention to get them to come into your restaurant? You know, so I think social media on its own cannot work to build a brand. No matter how famous you are in Malaysia, people will go to the place for a while and then they kind of fade off because that's how short their attention span is. They'll move on to another best thing, you know. So how a brand can stand always being out there is how the communications person together with the brand owners sit together and craft out a suitable campaign, you know, integrating social media, a little bit of traditional media, television. There's a lot of online IPTV now on there and online radios, and also putting in a bit of money set aside for advertising, maybe more digital. I know some companies are putting all their annual budgets now into fully digital for 1 year, you know, which means not just social media, but maybe jazzing up and enhancing their website. So a website also has to be dynamic. It cannot be the same for the next 10 years. It has to be quite vibrant. So again, you need a communications person working across social media, on the website, conversations in newspaper, IPTV, radio, you know, a lot of platforms, and then integrating it back on social media. So there are a lot of grandmothers also on Facebook. So they might be reading about a food review and they say, you know, I want to go to that restaurant. So both young and small are on social media. What I'm saying is you need to integrate it with other forms and somehow come up with a very clever campaign to captivate your audience in a very clever way. For example, I'm giving free ideas for your listeners. Okay, if you feel that you are a high and expensive restaurant, maybe you need to do promotions, you know, to get people to come through that door. And after the promotions, you need to maybe do closed door events with a special group of people with special brands that are in line with your high end. So you're tying up audiences of that same nature together in one activity, if you like, and you get your objectives achieved because these people will also tweet, they will talk about it. So word of mouth is still the most powerful PR, but I think now word of mouth is on Twitter, on social media. So again, going back to social media, people like to give a shout out where they are. In fact, I know now all the events that are happening in KL because of all my friends who are shouting out where they are. So whether they are at the Tatler Ball or another event that is prestigious, we all know where they are.
So you don't need to tell each other where you guys are, but you can just...
and you don't even need to read the magazine. Maybe you need a magazine to read, just look at all the pretty photos. But at the end of the day, I think people are just instantly telling you where they are.
So I believe social media is a very important tool when it comes to PR.
It's a good influencer tool.
But when it comes to PR again, what are the types of business sectors that PR can influence?
I think it's across all, you know, from corporate communications to financial communications to investor relations to media relations, to different kind of communications from lifestyle to business. I think it encompasses every industry that needs to tell a story. So it could be B2C, business to consumer.
Yep.
It could be B2B, where, say, for example, a very huge infrastructure company is coming into Malaysia. Who are their partners? So they will look at maybe telcos, right?
Yeah.
So then that's B2B. So B2B is where you'll have to talk at a different level altogether. So maybe they don't need publicity, but a different kind of, relationship building. So it goes, what PR means is about relationship building with various stakeholders that are important to your company.
Right.
So whether it's B2C or B2B, you have to identify that within your campaign for that year and then communicate with those people. So if you're opening up a new shopping mall there and there's so many in town, who are the business partners? Tenants, right?
Right.
So you have to list down what are the tenants on which floor, which corner. Somebody will design the thematics of that shopping mall. But the PR would still be dialogues with potential tenants, right?
Yes.
So that is also up to the PR agency, if it's within that scope of work, to give that service to the client. Yeah.
Right.
So there's different types of public relations, but it's still relationship building and connecting businesses.
You mentioned about relationship and also communication repeatedly, but when it comes to perception of PR in Malaysia, how is it so far? Is it still a very fresh new terms, especially among younger generations? Or
I think, I heard a young teenager say that communications is not important, and I had to sit him down and explain to him, what communications entail. So I think the perception of the young people, and even business owners, I would advise that they pick up a book to read so they understand what public relations is all about. But it's not a new term. It was actually coined by the Public Relations Association in the UK in 1978. So it was already coined then, but now moving forward, of course, you're dealing with different communications platforms because things are evolving. There are new
very
trends
quickly.
coming in, and so information is being disseminated in a very different way, but in a very interesting manner and very fast. And so the market is very noisy and very busy, right? So who's
also
going
very
to
competitive.
read? Who's going to read a $60,000 ringgit advertisement in the newspaper? I mean, when I open the newspaper, you just flash them and it's over, right?
Flip over.
Flip over. So the huge investments being put by business owners into advertising, but not looking at public relations. It means building relationship with your customers with credibility. And being genuine about it, and long-lasting relationship. I mean, I even hear property developers who are very proud of saying that they have return customers, which means the first group of home buyers are buying their second phase, third phase, fourth phase. I mean, isn't that great?
That is.
Yeah. So that's why it's important to be out there to build that relationship. And in Malaysia, it's all about events and activities.
Yes.
It's still face-to-face. It's about genuine, honest relationships. So it's not just about Skyping with some unknown person on the other side or sending out a message on Facebook to some unknown audiences. It's also connecting with your customers in a very real manner. So that takes more energy and time, but I think it's time well invested for a brand.
So it is worth personalizing your clients and then also get to know each other, building the relationship basically.
Yes. So the consultant will have to sit with the client and brainstorm ideas that work for them for the next 1 year or 2 years. So 6 months is too short. I think you will need at least a year to 2 to 3 or even more to see the actual branding. And I know a lot of companies have in-house communications team, but that's how consultants come in, because we can always give again the outside-in orientation from what's happening out there to help the in-house team to come up with a really strategic campaign. So I think both teams are important, in-house and outsourced, and coming together to help build the brand, because perceptions are still seen from the outside.
True.
So but some people think that having just an in-house team is good enough, but I believe that you need a lot of people to help your brand from different angles.
I think it's you have a very good point there. It's really important to be able to receive or even the critics from outside, and then only you know how to grow yourself with the weaknesses that you know about it.
Like in the process of communication, feedback is very important. So
analysis, feedback, whether it's negative or positive, you can always turn it around for the good of the company. You know, the bad can become good. So, but how you spin it, how you turn it around, that is up to the creative consultants that you hire that can make it happen. So it's creativity in thinking processes and coming up with the right strategy to help a brand.
Right, excellent. So we've been speaking with Alice George on the PR in the different aspects so far, but we'll continue after this short break, so stay tuned with us.
Yeah, I love it.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. You're with Grace and also
Karina
at the Durian Heat. And also Alice. Yes, we've been speaking with her for the past half an hour. And here we go. We're at the last segment of the Durian Heat. So Alice, when it comes to PR, you've been sharing a lot of different aspects of PR. But is there any growing trends in the PR industry?
I think it's all about content. Although I would say that some industry players would like to take that space, but I think it always starts with communications. And as public relations practitioners, whether you are aspiring or experienced, I think content is still what is missing. I think this is where PR practitioners can contribute. That means it's no longer about just writing a press release, but writing it strategically and maybe more concise for different platforms. So even things that come out on other media can be promoted on social media, right? So if you came out on television, then that clip can be on your social media site as well, or even on your website. So I think the trends is that the way publicity is being exposed could be on different platforms and different ways of communicating your messages out into the public.
That means you need to know how you can adapt to different types of media, from traditional media to online media, and even the future medias that we never know yet. And then that comes with, again, the importance of communication skills and the style of writing that you need to know how to write and send out your messages to your clients or even to the public.
So how you write a press release may not be how you write for the narratives of social media. How you write for website is different, you know. So, so different styles of writing across different platforms.
So, PR is very important. That's what we learned so far. And then why is it important? We also shared a lot different types of elements under the umbrella of PR. So it is very important for business, especially, to set these right images and also messages to public.
Absolutely, in a very consistent manner.
Perhaps could you just elaborate a little longer from there? How is it important to businesses from their point of view to send out their messages to public again?
Yes, because if you're a business, you know, you need to send messages out to the business desk. If you are indeed tying up in a joint venture, I think in everything that a business desk, you know, does, you have to still communicate to the different segments of media, whether it's business, lifestyle, whether it's simply just CSR, which is often misunderstood. I think in everything that you do, communicate it well and in a very timely fashion and plan it well. I think that's the key point, because if you don't plan it well and you just work things on ad hoc, you know, next week I've been invited to this event, let's be a part of it. You know, 2 weeks is not enough to plan your communications. You have to sit down and really sit through what you're going to write and how you're going to say it and who you're going to get on board to say it, whether it's a celebrity or the MC. Everyone has to be thoroughly briefed. Your spokespersons, your CEOs, how they're going to deal with the media, everything has to be written out very well. So that requires a bit of time. So anything that is rushed will not achieve the end result.
Right.
So planning is crucial to public relations so that you can see it all happen and unfold in 2016 when you plan in 2015. But often than not, most people don't plan well. This is what I feel.
The reason I asked you was in Malaysia particularly, we see a lot of entrepreneurs booming up in this industry. And then a lot of them also do fail. And I believe after this interview, throughout this interview, I believe that it's part PR, because of PR, the knowledge of PR is not there in their journey. So perhaps that's the one element that it comes to their failures. So it is important that we know and how it's important to have this knowledge and information of a PR to implement and insert your business when it comes to entrepreneurship or any kinds of businesses in Malaysia. So before we end our interview, Alice, is there any messages that you want to send out to our young listeners and even elites and then people that listen to Durian ASEAN?
I encourage more young people to come forward and, take up communications as part of your studies, because I think it encompasses your skills in every area. So if you're in communications, you can be hired by a technology company that needs to communicate. You could be hired by a fast-moving consumer brand that needs somebody to communicate their brand. So I think I encourage young people to take up communications, and there's some very good courses and degrees out there in both public relations and mass communications. For entrepreneurs and business people out there, I think that you should consider taking up communications as part of your overall marketing plan for the year ahead, and plan it well so that the company is booming during good times and bad times. Your brand is well put out there in the marketplace.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alice. All right.